on the floor from Boston. Stephen A., from your expertise and your eye, what did Miami do to induce all of these Boston turnovers?
Well, Victor Oladipo was a star defensively in the third quarter, particularly against Jaylen Brown, because he stripped him about 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was one of the worst 40-point performances you'll ever see from a player, because Jaylen Brown did have 40, but the third quarter alone he committed 5 turnovers, and it seemed like every single turnover he committed squelched a run that was potentially being made by the Boston Celtics. So that really rings out. It really stands out. But also, don't even call this TD Bank Garden. Call this TD Bank Infirmary, because, I mean, everybody was going down. You started out the game learning that Robert Williams would be out. All of a sudden, Jimmy Butler was out. Marcus Smart got hurt. Jason Tatum got hurt. And so you looked at it from that perspective, from that standpoint, and injuries just seemed to be happening all over the place. But ultimately what it came down to were the turnovers and the inability for Jason Tatum to get going. He finished shooting 3 of 14 for the game. Him and Jaylen Brown combined, the 2 stars combined for 13 turnovers. You can't beat this Miami team playing that sloppily. You just can't do it. But they did it tonight. That's why the Boston Celtics lost. That's why the Miami Heat have regained a lead in this series and reclaimed home court advantage.
Well said. 13 turnovers, 6 for Tatum, 7 for Brown. I just want to ask you a big picture perspective, because you've watched every single second of this series with your own eyes, either in Miami or Boston. These are the 2 best teams in the East. What do you attribute these incredibly wild swings, teams up by 25 meaning nothing?
Inefficiency offensively. The fact of the matter is that Miami was in complete control in the first half. In the third quarter, they looked like they didn't even know who they were in the first half. Yeah, Boston might have amped it up a little bit defensively. There's no denying that. But they were missing shots that they were making in the first half. And they got away from Bam Adebayo to some degree. Now, he finished with 29 and 10 and 6. He came out incredibly aggressive after being so anemic in games 1 and 2. Handled his business in the first half. In the third quarter, they didn't get the ball to him nearly as much as they should have. You're looking at a guy like Tyler Hero. He's the reigning 6th man of the year. Shot 4 of 15 from the field in this particular game. Meanwhile, Boston was getting it going. Al Horford shot 50% from the field. Marcus Smart got hurt, came back in the game, made a big-time three-pointer. That mattered. But in the end, if you're the Boston Celtics, it's still going to come down to your 2 stars. And when you got both of them turning the ball over with an alarming level of regularity, and the ultimate star in Jason Tatum simply not being able to find his groove, then it spells doom for you. And that's what it did for the Boston Celtics in Game 3. That's why Miami's up 2-1. Well said. Game 4 Monday night. Countdown Cruise, led by Stephen A. Smith, will get you set. Stephen A., thanks very much.
In the first 2 games, the Heat were led by Jimmy Butler. In this one tonight, it was Bam Adebayo, 31 points, 10 boards, 6 assists, his 4th career 25-10 in 5 game in the playoffs. That only LeBron has more in franchise history, and it came at the perfect time, because keep in mind, Jimmy Butler missed the second half with that right knee inflammation. It's also a big improvement for Bam, who had 16 total points in the first 2 games combined. And we welcome him now to the show. Bam Adebayo, it's good to see you. How would you describe your performance tonight compared to the first 2 games of this series?
I mean, Jimmy been carrying us this whole playoffs, this whole playoff run. So, you know, when he goes down, you know, it's my time to step in, be aggressive, and just take that step.
How you played, you were embarrassed by the loss. So after this game tonight, what is the feeling for you guys in that locker room?
I mean, we definitely need to retaliate. You know, they beat us like we stole something in Game 2. So just having this bounce back is a great win for us.
Speaking of bouncing back, it was probably pretty good to get Kyle Lowry back. He'd missed 8 of the last 10 games for you guys. How does he impact the way you play the game?
His IQ, you know, the resume speaks for itself, but his IQ is just, you know, through the roof. You know, the one play that I remember is the steal at the end of the game. You know, only Kyle Lowry would make a play like that.
Only Kyle Lowry would make a play like that. Going forward, it seems like the injuries are piling up, and it's hard to get to this point in the season and not have injuries. How do you balance sort of the bumps and the bruises with the intensity of the game?
Just got to keep fighting. You know, we didn't come this far to come this far. You know, you're going to have bumps and bruises. That's the part of the playoffs, you know. Last man standing.
So coming out of the last game, we said that there was a bit of a theme. A 25-point lead for either team really kind of means nothing. It's been back and forth. How do you prepare for what the Celtics, after being embarrassed at home, how do you prepare for what they're going to throw at you in the next game?
Lock in, get to the film. We know they're going to come out aggressive, and try to embarrass us. So, our biggest thing to combat that and get stops, run in transition, and just run our plays.
So you were criticized for being too timid in the first couple of games in this series. How should we talk about the way you played tonight? What's the one word you want us to use?
I don't know. I leave that to y'all. My job is not to be in front of this camera. My job is to be on the court, trying to help my teammates win. So y'all can come up with that word.
Okay.
The full post game is coming in seconds. Stephen A. Smith, we're monitoring both locker rooms. The Heat defense led the way. Remember, Butler had that knee inflammation, so they couldn't rely on his offense. Miami had a franchise record, 19 steals in this game, one shy of the playoff record held by the Sixers and the Bucks, and now appropriately, Nicole, they have stole back home court advantage.
They also got a player back in some regards. Let's bring in our Matt Barnes, who was watching the game as well. Close eye on Bam Adebayo, who's been so quiet through the first two games. He had those 16 points combined. Tonight, 31 points and 31 points. I was combining Kyle Lowry and Bam's points there, but the bottom line is he was much more effective tonight. What did he do that allowed him to break out of the slump?
Well, my X factors coming into this series were Bam Adebayo and Jaylen Brown, and neither of those guys disappointed tonight. But Bam was just aggressive. 16 points over the first two games is really not up to his standards. I like the fact that he got up 22 shots tonight, scored 31 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. He was doing it all over the floor, on both sides of the floor. Offensively, one-on-one moves, getting the ball to the pick and roll and moving it from side to side. You see a face-up jumper right there. If Bam plays like this, Miami is going to be really tough to beat the rest of the series.
Thank you for clarifying those stats for me, at least that you can read it, and apparently I can't. If Bam plays like this, but they were able to do this also while losing Jimmy Butler, who's been so good for them. How are they able to keep it going while also missing Jimmy Butler for the entire second half?
Well, I think Miami, there was really no rhythm or flow to their offense in the second half, and I think that their best offense was good defense. Victor Oladipo's numbers won't jump out the page to you, but he was so instrumental in just making things tough for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum down the stretch. He had 4 steals, but he probably caused maybe 3 or 4 more on top of that just by having active hands. But their defense was incredible. Kyle Lowry's veteran leadership out there making big plays down the stretch, also getting some steals. They were able to do it on the defensive end. As you saw, they didn't really have any kind of flow in the second half offensively. So I'm definitely I know they're looking forward to hopefully having Jimmy back next game. But just really hats off. I mean, PJ Tucker, an unsung hero, did a great job on Tatum tonight, but also knocked down 17 points, 7 rebounds. So this was definitely a blue-collar win, and they could hang their hat on the defensive end tonight for the Miami Heat.
I do want to get your thoughts real quick on Jason Tatum, who was very quiet tonight. What did you see from him that made him so ineffective?
It was just one of those off nights, and he had one against Milwaukee Bucks in that series, and this is just a time that you can't have off nights. 3 for 14, and obviously you want to credit Miami's defense because they made him tough looks, but outside of not shooting the ball well, he was also very loose with the ball. 6 turnovers. Boston had 23 turnovers, which led to 30 points for the Miami Heat, and in the playoffs you can't have that. But these are all shots that Jason Tatum normally makes, but just tonight he didn't. So look for him to come back game 4 and have a big night.
Just 10 points for Tatum tonight. It is now a 2-1 series lead for the Heat. Matt, don't go too far. We're going to bring you back in just a bit.